Once again,
Okay.
thank you so much for joining in. I
Sure.
hope you're doing well. How you holding up?
I'm doing okay. How about you?
I'm doing good. It's quite the shift not to be in the office, not to be on the road going to schools, but besides that, I'm enjoying the remote work and I'm keeping busy for
Right.
sure. Yeah.
Right. Right. Yeah, I hear you and I understand. Um it's the remote work is kind of funny. It's uh sometimes I'm great with it, sometimes I'm not so great with it. I do miss the face to face, but that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah. All right. No, yeah, I agree. So I'll start off with the first question. Uh,
Sure.
what are the current goals of the Office of Institutional Diversity and Inclusion?
I think to answer that is to understand, first of all, my title as Vice President for Inclusive Excellence. I think we use the term inclusive excellence for a specific purpose, and that is many institutions, including Marquette, view inclusive excellence as a um, basically a way of making that commitment to how we value and engage um, all students, faculty, and staff with their diverse backgrounds. We engage. Let me repeat this. We engage the diversity of our students, faculty, and staff. We engage, welcome it, find ways to support it, find ways to enable people to reach their aspirations and goals in our community, that community being Marquette. So it's not enough for us to uh, see Marquette as just a community of a bunch of communities. That's fine that we have a lot of communities in Marquette, but we want to see all the communities engaged in a kind of an intercultural way. So that's really how one achieves inclusive excellence, by doing that. So with that in mind, we maintain a set of goals for the Office of Institutional Diversity and Inclusion that really focus on um, who comes to Marquette, um, how is the environment for everyone? Is it welcoming and inclusive? Um, how people are able to, how we're able to diversify um, the educational experience in terms of teaching, learning, and scholarship and research, and then how we engage with diverse communities beyond Marquette. So our goals really revolve around those four principles that relate very closely in many ways to the mission of the university, the mission around excellence, faith, leadership, and service. So we know, for example, in the work that we've done, that um, our work ties very directly to the core mission of the institution, the guiding values of the institution, um, and most importantly, the things that have been said from Arturo Sosa as the Superior General of the Society of Jesus, who is calling on us to create environments for intercultural engagement.
Thank you.
Okay.
Uh, and going along with the uh, inclusive excellence, I'll just ask the next question. How is the Office
Sure.
of Institutional Diversity and Inclusion supporting underrepresented students, faculty, and staff?
Um, in my view, what we can do best is create opportunities for interconnections, interactions between those communities, both within and between those communities. What we see ourselves as doing is working with our partners throughout the campus to create programs and projects that and initiatives that bring those communities together toward a common purpose. Probably the best illustration of that, the best example of that, is our initiative to become an Hispanic serving institution. I believe that we have significant support for that from many places across the campus, certainly within the student community, within the faculty community, and among staff. And they've demonstrated their support directly by engaging in the planning process that Jackie Black has led, um, and by implementing various plans around campus, various initiatives around campus. And we try to help engage people in these kinds of things and support them with resources whenever and wherever possible. Probably two good examples of that would be the effort to um, uh, create more translations of the Marquette website into Spanish. That's a good example of the work that we do under Jackie's leadership. Um, Another example would be working with the Languages, Literature, and Culture program on a Heritage Speakers initiative that they have done for years that we are trying to help strengthen. Those are two good examples within the effort to create, enhance, support Hispanic initiatives. But I provide that to you as an illustration of the kinds of things that we do more broadly. I'll just use another. We have taken a responsibility about 10 years ago. I took responsibility for the Metcalf Chair. That's a program designed to bring scholars of color to campus. And the idea behind that is, especially in those places where we believe that learning can be enhanced through the presence of people from other places, we've been able to bring people in and present them to the campus. And that program, over the time I've been here, the interest among faculty and students especially has grown in that. But that's just something that we do. We work with partners throughout the campus to develop that. So those are the kinds of things. That's how we try to support students. And I would add the third thing that we do for students, faculty, and staff is maintain more than just an open door to them. We do look for opportunities to sit with people. I have often found myself in a place where I might have a student or faculty member come to me with an idea, and we sit together and dream together and try to figure out how we can actually do what bring their idea into fruition. And that to me is actually one of the most exciting things that I think that we do sometimes, is to take an idea and make it happen.
Yeah, yeah. And especially now, how are you still fostering a culture of inclusion given the current circumstances?
It's not easy.
Oh, I bet, yeah.
I will start right there. But having said that, the work continues. Um, Certainly in this sort of virtual environment, using Teams to continue our meetings with Committee on Equity and Inclusion, the Academic Senate Committee on Equity and Diversity, Diversity and Equity. And I met just yesterday with the Culture of Inclusion operations team. And we're continuing to figure out ways we can move forward. Under the current circumstances, we want to keep things moving. We don't want things to just simply go dormant. We don't want the light to go dark on us. We have to keep moving. And there are two dimensions to that. And that's what we do now and what we do down the line, planning for next year and beyond next year, for that matter. And so in some ways, those committees and some of the conversations I've had on Teams and phone calls and all have been to kind of encourage people on that path. Um, because I think we've gained a lot of ground on culture of inclusion. This is a very different institution around diversity, equity, and inclusion than the school that I came to, the university I came to 10 years ago. And I would hate to see us lose any momentum there. So I would say in those two things I talked about, the right now, I think the very, very pressing issue, and I think this is going to transcend into what we do in the future, is we have this very, very serious wake-up call about what inequality really does look like. If people didn't know what it looked like before, we know what it looks like now. We know that the circumstances that students are attempting to study and complete the semester under are very, very different depending on where they've gone home to. And I should put home in quotes because not everybody has had the privilege of going home. So we know those circumstances are very different. We know the demands on them are very different. We also know the context of all of this. The fact that we are seeing such a significant inequity in the way in which this particular coronavirus has affected the lives of people has changed us. It's really making us, as members of a Jesuit Catholic university, really take note of what inequality actually means on a day-to-day basis. And so short term, I've talked to faculty who are concerned that students are able to continue and finish and that their colleagues are treating all students well, not simply equally, but making sure that all students are able to continue to pursue their education and that these circumstances don't create an obstacle for them. We know that students themselves need tremendous support, and I would refer to that that handbook that Marla Guerrero has put together with her team. I think that having good communication tools, resources will be really important. This is all part of fostering a culture of inclusion. We are challenged, if we want to say that we have a culture of inclusion, we are challenged to keep that going now, to show that we really mean to have a culture of inclusion. And then into the future, as plans are made for the fall and for the entire academic next year, we have to keep all of these things in mind, the inequities in our society and the work that we really are challenged to do to support people, but also as a university that does research, to think about some of the and get our students and our faculty engaged in conversation about what we've learned. So that's how we're fostering a culture of inclusion.
Thank you. And
Sure.
speaking about the changes and everything that's happening on campus, how do you keep your employees or team members motivated and engaged, especially now?
Checking in frequently. Probably not as, but also giving people space to do their work. I don't want, the people in, I think I've developed the kind of rapport with everyone who works in our office for them to know that I'm not going to be checking up on them, making sure that they are, I don't want to micromanage people in this environment. I don't want to do anything different from what I was doing before. We have some really extraordinary self-directed people in the Office of Institutional Diversity and Inclusion, in Jackie, in you, and I would add to that Kristen Kreppel, our Title IX coordinator. People are all continuing on their projects. We're actually probably excluding the programming, we're as productive now as we ever were. And I think that's a testament to the autonomy in which everyone is able to work together and get things done. So, motivation is about checking in, knowing that we can talk whenever we need to talk, as we did in the face-to-face environment, but also knowing from my standpoint that it's really important that I not try to micromanage anybody's work just because we're now all working remotely.
Thank you. Yeah, and going along with that, what current efforts are being made to ensure that our students are still being enrolled for next year?
I guess from my standpoint, so much of this really is about supporting the work of the Office of Admissions, supporting the work of the Office of Financial Aid, supporting EOP, supporting student affairs, especially as they try to figure out what RISE is going to look like. I think our office has some involvement in all of these things. Jackie has a lot of involvement. I've had some involvement, but I think in trying to provide any support we can for for two levels, bringing new students to campus and also making sure that students return. And I think part of it is for students especially to know that they can, if they are not sure where to go with something, they can always come to us. They can always email us. We'll arrange to a phone call and try to get them to where they need to be. I don't really want to be like the one-stop shopping there. I want them to get to the experts. So if they're not sure where to take a question to, we'll get them to that. That's particularly important for returning students, for whom there are a lot of challenges there. I would say the other thing that we do is, and this kind of goes into two spaces. One is to make sure that we engage other people, employees, faculty, and staff in that same process, whenever, wherever we can, as long as we can be helpful. So, for example, if admissions wants a prospective student to talk to a faculty member, it would be great to make that connection whenever it's appropriate to do so. But every bit as important as that is whatever we can do to help our faculty, especially, who are probably having the most sustained contact right now with current students. Anything we can do to help them work with those students so that they finish the semester without experiencing some trauma in the process of trying to finish their work, and that they remain engaged and they're back here again in the fall. Whatever help we can provide to make sure that students stay engaged in their academic work and that they return is really important. And again, I only know what that looks like when I see it. It may come in the form of a couple of faculty getting together and wanting to write a statement to their colleagues to encourage them to look in on their students and all, and helping those faculty take that idea into something that could be distributed. And my role in doing that particular thing was very modest. They knew what they were doing, and they worked with the Center for Teaching and Learning on that. And I just supported them in their efforts to take the idea into something that their colleagues could benefit from. But we want to make sure that students feel connected. We still have to find some better ways of creating opportunities for community for them to feel a strong sense of connection. Because otherwise, they can get socially connected in other ways. They can do that through Instagram and all of that, and with things that have nothing to do with their Marquette life. We need to be present in those places. I don't know when Father Fred Zagone passed by and told me about the mass that he and two other Jesuits did last night. Um, he said that they had some 3,000 people tune into the mass. That's pretty amazing. And I'd like to think that not only are Marquette students a part of that, but even underrepresented students might see that as a way of maintaining some connection with Marquette as well, to see familiar people and to do the things that are valuable, that they're valued by the university.
And are there any resources you would recommend students visiting right now during this time?
I would strongly recommend that students stay engaged with the homepage of the university and watch for updates. And that is, to me, one of the most important sources. They should also, even if you kind of like tune out on email, this is a time to keep tuned in. Because in some ways, what you want to do is you want to be in the know. And you also should recognize that if you see something important coming from the university, make sure your friends see it. Make sure you're in contact with them and you say, oh, I just saw on Marquette's website that this new resource is available for us. So share it. So be observant like you never had to be observant before on information coming down. It's just like what we're saying in the broader society. Use the information from the CDC. Use the information from the Wisconsin Health Services to make decisions about whether or not you should go outside and what you should do if you have to go outside. Same thing with Marquette. Use the Marquette website to make sure that you are informed about the key things that are going on here. Pay attention to the emails that come through from official sources at Marquette and make sure your friends are aware of them as well. And again, more will be forthcoming when that new handbook comes out that Dr. Guerra and colleagues are working on. I would just, it's a PDF. I would put it on my phone. Put it on your phone, store it on your phone, or print it out or whatever. Make sure that you have that at your disposal.
Thank you. I think that's great. And just to finish off, is there anything you would like to say to all of our underrepresented students at this time?
Yes. Okay. One is to be well, stay safe. That's one thing, first and foremost, and do safe things for yourself. The second is take care of others, especially family. If you're not able to physically be with them, check in on them. Just send them a text message and make sure they're okay. Third, probably more important than anything else, stay close to your academics. I know this is hard, but stay close to it. You take this on as a challenge that you're going to master, which is to finish this semester, prepare for the next semester, that, COVID-19 is not going to derail you from your dreams, from your hopes, from your ambitions. I think those three things for me are just really, really important to take care of yourself. Use the resources, by the way. One of the things, students, I was one of them. Students of color have a way of believing that we can take care of ourselves sometimes. Reach out for help. So that may be the fourth thing. Reach out for help when you need it. And then finally, the fifth thing would be I look forward to seeing you all sometime very, very soon.
Thank you.